Hello everyone, I am JL Anil Kumar. I am a senior consultant at Lexarvis in Bangalore. I retired in 2015 as the head of the IP group of Philips India in Bangalore. Today it gives me great pleasure to talk to you about what is sometimes referred to as a software patent, which is of course a misnomer. It is also referred to as a computer implemented invention or computer related inventions. First, let us take a look at the history of this subject in India. Section 3 of the Indian Patents Act is titled What are not inventions? Some people find this unusual or funny because instead of saying what can be patented, the Indian Patent Act starts with what cannot be patented or what are not even inventions. But it serves a very useful purpose. The section 3K lists a mathematical or business method or a computer program per se or algorithms. These are not inventions. Our concern today is to look at what does computer program per se mean. There has been much debate about the significance of the phrase per se in the Act. There are various interpretations. One interpretation, which is commonly accepted, is that program code itself cannot be patented. One way of looking at it is that code can be protected by a copyright. A method that achieves a technical effect is patentable even if the method is implemented by a computer program. Similarly, a device configured for achieving a technical effect is patentable even if the so-called configuring is mainly through computer program. This is the general interpretation of computer program per se in the Indian Patent Act. However, this interpretation was not implemented uniformly or consistently by the Patent Office. Or at least that's what the practitioners in the field have always felt, with justification of course. This may be because the reason for this inconsistent implementation is perhaps the differences between individual patent examiners. Examiners themselves, each individual examiner himself or herself, not being consistent over time and over all cases. The third reason could be that the way the specifications and claims are drafted might also lead to this kind of inconsistency in the implementation or interpretation of the Section 3K of the Indian Patents Act. To overcome these kind of inconsistencies, guidelines and computer related inventions, also called the CRI guidelines, were prepared and opinions of all stakeholders were sought. These guidelines were both for the examiners and the patent professionals. The first draft was released in August 2015. The second one was released in 2016 February. The third was published as the final one in June 2017. The second version caused quite a furore because the guidelines required that the computer implemented invention required a novel hardware element also. The question that was posed by many pertinently is if there is a novel hardware element that would make the patent application a hardware patent and there is no place for software part at all. So why is the novel hardware element a necessity as a test for patentability was not clear to anybody. This major thorn in the flesh was rectified and the current version does not have this requirement. All in all, many practitioners still feel that there are inconsistencies in the way the guidelines are followed. Inventions with clear technical effect but implemented by software are routinely objected to or not granted. At least in the first examination report, there is always an objection regarding this being a software and hence not medical. Thus, some opine that CRI guidelines have had no impact at all, or that the impact has not been significant. Each application is a case unto itself, is what many people refer to it as. That was part of the past and what transpired. Today, we continue to manage ambiguity. However, if you look at the case law, things appear a little brighter. The Delhi High Court's ruling adopted a liberal approach to this question. It reiterated that the test for determining patent eligibility is if the invention demonstrates a technical effect or a technical contribution, it is patentable, even though it may be based on a computer program. This made a lot of people heave a sigh of relief. So, let us look at the practical aspects of best practices for computer implemented or computer related inventions, or as I said earlier, software patents. The focus of all effort in patent drafting and prosecution must therefore be on the aspect of technical effect or technical contribution. It is important to make sure that the technical effect of the invention is laid out clearly from the very beginning. So let's take a look at the invention disclosure itself. Often, an invention appears patentable at first look when the inventor describes it to us. But as we analyze the invention more, it may become evident that the technical effect is weak or is too small or it is not easy to even define. Or similarly, the same case applies to this technical contribution of the invention. If the effort to clearly define and strengthen the technical effect at this level is put in, it makes further processes a lot easier for everybody concerned. Often, since such inventions are made by software professionals, obviously, they look at the invention in the software terms and describe it in those terms alone. It is at this stage that we need to intervene and define it in device terms or method terms, wherein the method is implemented by a software. But while defining the invention, we need not have to mention the software part at all, which is quite a trick, and it is what we need to do anyway. Many inventors, more so first-time inventors, do not understand the need for this kind of clarity very well. It is at this stage that the effort put in brings big dividends later on. Now let's take a look at the drafting part of this question. If possible, draft an application in terms of a device. Such an application describes and claims a device configured to do certain things in a certain way. If it is possible to draft such an application, that is the best thing to do. The technical effect is much easier to demonstrate. If you want an example, let's say take a medical electronic equipment which is supposed to do certain things, and now there is an improvement on it which makes its technical effect very obvious to see. But the whole thing is now implemented by software. So the device remains the same, but there is additional software which increases the capabilities or functionalities of the new device. Now we should focus only on the device doing a certain thing in a better way, or the device doing a certain thing, but later describe that it has been done by software. I hope that is clear. In an invention, if an invention is essentially a process carried out by a general purpose computer, describe the method alone in detail at first, without any reference to the computer or the computer software if it is possible. State clearly what the inputs are and what the outputs are. Make sure that the method is divided into steps, each step having a specific function. Make sure also that the technical effect is clearly understandable. It is not that the technical effect is there or not there. It is understandable to an examiner or a layman or anybody who reads it. This helps very much in making the patent application understandable and also to prosecute at a later stage. After this, describe how there are software modules which carry out each step. Make sure also that each module has a clear name that gives an idea of what it does. Not any vague name, but a name that says what the module does. This practice makes the invention easily understandable, and also it is easy to draft and finally prosecute. Now let's take a look at the claims, what is actually required. In the case of the device, things are straightforward and well known. We know how to draft device claims which does something. We have no need to refer to the software behind it. So that's a clear case. We don't have to talk about that right now. So if we are able to draft a patent application in device terms, things are easy. But when it comes to a method claim, we have to be careful. Draft the claim as a method claim with all the essential steps, not every step. What really makes this process or method unique must be there in the main independent claim. Make sure that in each clause that describes a step, the name of the software module carrying it out is mentioned. This avoids certain other objections which we'll come to a little later. Make sure that every step in the claim has sufficient support in the description. This is, though, a very fundamental thing with software related patents or computer implemented patent applications. This has to be made doubly sure. In spite of drafting the specifications as just now detailed, there will be some objections about patentability. Usually the objection is that the claim is on an abstract idea and hence cannot be patented. We have to counter this objection by citing all the different modules that are implemented to carry out the steps. This demonstrates that it is not an abstract idea but an implementation of an idea. Further, make sure that the technical effect is as described again and as clearly as possible in the response to the office action. For both this, show where the claim is supported in the description. Now, that was the bird's eye view on the subject of the so-called software inventions. These practices that I have listed have yielded significant grants over time. With this, I come to the end of my talk on this subject. I thank the organizers for the opportunity to address this question in this event. I also thank LexArch for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Take care, stay safe.